So beautiful, and thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Southport Congregational Church. It's Mary Martha's spiritual home for 36 years. And I just want to begin by saying, on behalf of her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, thank you all for your love and support of Mary Martha, for all of them. And today, as Mary Martha's family and friends and community, we lift her up to celebrate her wonderful, very, very blessed life of 95 full years. We thank God for being able to share in her life, and we're here to say goodbye to her as well in the best and original sense of the word of God be with you. Where she is now at home with God and with all who have gone before. Talking to some family members who are thinking about her reuniting with her husband, Bill, although now there's a 30-year age gap, but I think God takes care of that. And she is still very, very much with us here in spirit, in her big, big spirit. And in that light, I think all we need to do is just take a look at the photograph, the one on the cover of the bulletin, really any of the ones in between, and we can still, I look at that and I'm still impacted by her radiance, her warmth, her energy, and I still feel that connection very, very much shining through. We're still part of her spirit and love at this time of honoring and remembrance, and so let's join together in this spirit, in our responsive call to worship that we'll find in our bulletins. In the Spirit of Christ, let us gather and worship as we respond to his invitation when he said, "Come unto me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, and you will find rest for your souls." We come to this sacred time seeking the spiritual comfort as we respond to God's healing presence. As the prophet Isaiah said, comfort my people, says your God. May we receive God's comfort as we offer our love and gratitude for the beautiful life of Mary Martha and entrust her body and soul to God's eternal care.
I had the pleasure of meeting Mary Martha for the first time 32 years ago here at church, and she was a fabulous first person, top people to meet when you're a young minister's wife coming into a new church. And I think, as Paul's going to tell later, some personal connections between our family. So I'm going to skip a whole part of what I was going to say because I thought perhaps that was coming earlier. But one of the things I loved about Mary Martha is my mother was born in 1929 as well. And so there's just something about when you meet someone who's of that same age, they just have a way about themselves and they have very common things that they want to say to you. So Mary Martha would say to me things on a Sunday morning when I would bring our 4 kids into worship. She would say, "The way you dress your kids up for Sunday worship service, it's just such a lovely thing to see," right? And she would say, "Oh, just to be a grandparent to those 4 children would be so lovely." She just had those just lovely mother-like things to say. And then as our time went on, we got to do ministry together, and we developed our own relationship together. She was a deeply committed member of our Mission Outreach Board, being in charge of monthly community suppers at St. George's Kitchen for years. She was a regular at our women's group there every Thursday morning until COVID hit, and then online there every Thursday with Amy from their safe pod in Vermont at Miles. And when I think of Mary Martha, I think of a learning was a lifelong quest for her. She could always be found in the front row of every and any adult education program that was happening here, or at Sturgis Ridge, or at the Historical Society, or at the library. She was always there. And just like Paul, what I imagine most of you will remember is this warm smile and these twinkling eyes. She was always ready with a warm hello, and more importantly, a very sincere, how are you? And then just a stopping to wait and hear what you had to say. Her laugh was contagious and free-flowing, her friendships long and true, and I know we all miss being with her very much, but we also take comfort in knowing that she is now in the eternal encompassing love of God. So in that spirit and with that knowledge, please join me in the spirit of prayer. God of love and comfort, we are here gathered in this sacred space to find comfort in your presence. Because when a life is complete and all that remains are memories and words, we turn to you. We turn to you for support and for reassurance and for the strength we need to carry on. Today, we've come to this space to set aside time to think about Mary Martha. And our minds overflow with thoughts and vivid memories and with cherished moments that we shared with her. And as each new day begins and ends, we rest in the sure knowledge of her deep love for each one of us. And God, our hearts are full of gratitude as we reflect on our own personal connections with her, the laughter, the life lessons, the love that she gave us. So we sit here now, holding a powerful mix of emotions: appreciation, love, sadness, and longing. We celebrate Mary Martha's life at the same time that we grieve her absence. And because her life touched us and enriched us and informed and challenged us, it supported and uplifted us, each in our own way. And so with all the thoughts and feelings that we carry today, love and life, death and gratitude, loss and hope, help us, God, to become mindful of you, our center, our strength, our source of everlasting love. And let us now join together in the words that Jesus taught us to pray together, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
really awesome. Thank you so much, choir, for singing that, for being here. And that was, sometimes people jot notes of what they would like to have for their service, and that was one of the songs that Mary Martha had written down, and I get it, because the "You'll Never Walk Alone," so her, always just surrounded by people and by love. So, in thinking about passage of Scripture to share, the choice was very clear. And the first passage that we have is a really well-known story for many of us of Mary and of Martha in the Bible, for whom Mary Martha was named. It's like yin and yang, as we'll hear. Where in the story of Mary and Martha, it was Mary who sat at Jesus' feet and cared for him and listened attentively to every word and was very present. And then there was Martha, and Martha was the doer. She was the one who got things done and was on the move and the action-oriented one. And I don't know if it was right, we're looking and laughing because of some of the family names of Martha. Very strong name going through the family. So I don't know if it was a coincidence or if one is influenced by the name that they are given, but I really can't think for Mary Martha of a better combination because she really embodied all of that. She embodied the yin, the yang, put them together in a very, very beautiful fabric in life. And I think one of the reasons why she was really one of the most universally loved and adored human beings I know is because of the way that she listened, as Laura mentioned in the beginning. She was not one to really, talk about herself or gush or anything like that, or not one to complain. But she asked a lot of questions. And you'd talk with her, and so many of the questions would be about you. How are you doing? Tell me about what's the latest in your life. Tell me about the family. And then that would lead to certain threads, and then she would dig deeper and deeper. And to me, one of the secrets of her happiness, as well as her amazing ability to connect with just about anybody, really, was her genuine interest in other people. And just a little aside is that when I see a lot of people in the hospital and in difficult situations in their lives and nursing homes and so forth, and I find that there are two categories of people. There are the people who focus on themselves, their needs, their problems, their ills, their momentary level of, am I as happy as I think I should be? How unhappy am I? Their comfort, their discomfort, their concerns. They can name and tell you everything around them that is wrong. And those people are not so happy. And then there are the people who are genuinely interested in and lean in to and care for other people. And instead of telling you how bad the meals were at the hospital or how the people didn't come quickly enough for you, they will tell you all of the interesting people who they met and what the nurses are doing and what's going on in their lives and maybe their families. And those people are always happier. Mary Martha was one of those people. She was a great listener, like Mary, and she was an amazing doer, like Martha. Her travels around the world are up there with Magellan, truly. And she was so blessed in both ways. And so with that, just to begin, let's just read this together, this passage from Luke that you'll find in the inserts of your bulletins. And I'll just give you a second to find that. Bless you. All right, let's read this together. Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving And she went to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her." And that leads us to our second passage, which is from the Gospel of John. It's one of my all-time favorite passages because it not only sums up in Jesus' words why he came, but it also sums up about what our precious and sacred and fleeting life is about at its very best. And let's read these words together when he said, "I came so that you may have life and have it abundantly." Amen. So abundant life, and I'm just going to share with you some things for a few moments. Mary Martha, as we know, because we're here, she did abundant life really, really well, right? I got to look up to her and to love the way that she did abundant life for a very long time. As Laura indicated, I'm 67. I've known her for about 64 years. Laura and I came here to Southport 31 years ago and were just rejoicing. I mean, neither Mary Martha knew that I was coming, nor did I know that she was a member of this church. But when we really reunited back then, it was a wonderful time of both rejoicing and settling in for me. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But as a kid, I grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut. And we lived a couple of blocks away from each other. And that's also where Kathy and Miles and Charlie and Amy lived, and Mary, Martha, and Bill. And our families were the best of friends. And we spent a number of Christmases together and Easters together and many points in between. And Mary, Martha, and my mom really were best friends. My dad was Charlie's godfather. We were doing a little reminiscing in the library before we came in. I got to babysit Charlie and Amy when I was a kid, kind of myself, and got to go over and sometimes when you would go away and take care of, remember Sandy, your dog, your golden retriever, got to take care of Sandy and feed her, and sorry. This does happen. We were talking about what happens if you choke up a little bit. So my mom died at 57, and they were best friends. And as I told Mary Martha many times, she was the closest thing and the closest connection that I had to my mom. And so, you see that picture among the pictures, and thank you for putting that in there. And it was a very sacred kind of a role, and I welcomed that role fully with her. And she welcomed that role as well, and I did love her very much. I know that she shared this, I'm positive, with hundreds of other people as well, but I also loved the way that she would call me dearie, right? Right? She would say, "Oh, hello, dearie." And I would say, "I love it." And then she would say, "Oh, I probably shouldn't call you that." It's like, I love it when you call me dearie, right? And just that whole zest for life, her smile that would radiate. She was one of the most photographed people in all of our church publications because we would want to put something out. We would be going through all these photographs, and there would always be one that would surface, that would come up, and it's like, well, she was in the last one before that, and so forth. But whatever, if you wanted to see and show, what does a happy, vibrant, abundantly living person look like, and you look at that picture, and that was her. So she loved well, and she served well and abundantly. She served our church extremely well. She was on our board of deacons for 2 terms, great in that role. Served on our church council for 2 terms. She served on our music committee. She served as our church clerk for at least 5 years. She was a lay delegate to our conference. She played in our handbell choir. And so thank you very much for playing this morning. She played in the handbell choir for something around 20 years. And she also helped to start our Ministry of Music Fund, which supports all of the special music throughout the year and supports special musical things that we do, whether it's a senior choir or the handbell choir, or whether we have brass quartets coming in at Thanksgiving and Christmas. She was also notably a very active person in our missions outreach board. She did that for 2 terms. She helped to organize and be in charge of our cooking and serving of meals at the St. George's Community Meal for God knows how long. She prepared and served thousands and thousands and thousands of meals for people who were hungry, for people who ran out of money, especially at the end of the month, and they would come in and they would need a meal. Many times the people were homeless, and they needed a home-cooked meal. They needed a loving community. And that was a calling for her, to love and to serve, which she did so beautifully. She was one of the most indomitably positive, happy, warm, connected, curious, interested, and interesting, and beautiful human beings I've ever known. And I think that's why she had, for all of these reasons, that beaming smile so often. That's why she had this energy that came from God knows where, literally. She was dignified, sophisticated, polished, gracious, down to earth, very grateful to God for all of her blessings. So God bless you, Mary Martha, and thank you for sharing your soul with us. Amen.
Before I sing the next song, I first want to thank the Sherts family for having me here this afternoon to celebrate Mary Martha, although I should be thanking her directly, as she asked me several times if I would sing at the service, which the question I now respond with, not if you sing at mine first. But to follow on some of the really beautiful words that Paul and Laura both just said, I have a brief story that I was telling Paul in the courtyard this morning that he encouraged me to share with you. Mary Martha was really an amazing first person to meet coming to this church. The first time I walked in the doors here, I was probably 21 years old, and that was more than 21 years ago. And I was living full-time in the West Village then, and wasn't sure how I'd fit in the Southport community. And Mary Martha was always incredibly welcoming and encouraging and supportive. And she was supportive not just of the work that I was doing with the children in the youth choir program here at the church and at Broadway Boot Camp, which also runs here, that Sarah was a part of, and William also performed with the church occasionally. But of me personally, of who I am, like Paul and Laura both said, really asking, how are you, and getting to know someone and caring about them and how they are and loving them exactly as they were. So I was living in the West Village, as I said, and I dressed more like a person who lived in the West Village at the time. And I had this really loud blue suit made, and I thought, the best place to debut the suit would be on Easter Sunday here at Southport Congregational Church. So I did. And I had this sort of magenta tie that I thought went perfectly with it. And Mary Martha absolutely loved it. I mean, if you look at these pictures on the inside, right, there's pictures of her with the balloon halo around her, and this picture that must have been just a few years ago of her. Those are the pageant halos for the angels in the pageant and the angels' wings that she was holding as the children were getting ready before a pageant Sunday one time. And she loved the suit so much, there's somewhere in the world, I don't know where, there's a picture of the two of us standing right here in it. And then, so the next year, I wore what I will affectionately call normal clothes to church. And I saw her after, and it was probably the only time I saw Mary Martha disappointed. She just looked at me and said, "You didn't wear the suit?" She was like so taken aback that I had sort of come one with my more Southport surroundings. But that was who she was. And of course she was teasing, although I think she was genuinely disappointed that I wasn't dressed a little more loudly. But that's something I will always remember. I did actually try to wear the suit. I wore it a year ago, which I probably won't ever do again. I'll let it hang in my closet instead because, well, it's a 15-year-old suit, and you can imagine it's a little tight to wear. But she was really extraordinary, and I feel very grateful to now be singing a song that was written by her husband.
At dawn, I awoke, and the pain was gone. My fear disappeared that I'd known so long. My sadness and grief from my life before would never be known to me anymore. I found I could fly from my earthly bed. A voice called to me, this is what it said. Now you're a spirit, so soar through the skies. We're waiting for you in God's paradise. I'm on my way at last. Yes, I am moving fast. There's happiness ahead, just like the Bible said. In silence I flew through a golden glow. The light on my path, a brilliant rainbow. A hole in the clouds revealed quite a sight. A sparkling green sea and beach of pure white. And people were there looking up at me. I dove through the haze, and then I could see they were the dear ones that I'd loved before. They called, welcome dear, to peace evermore. I'm on my way at last. Yes, I am moving fast. There's happiness ahead, just like the Bible said.
And now we get to hear from the family.
Hello, everyone. I suppose it's everyone's fear in this congregation to ever have to follow Paul speaking, but I'll give it my best. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Kathy Sherts Civitillo, Mary, Martha, and Bill Sherts' oldest child. Thank you for joining us here today as we share memories and gratitude of Mary Martha's long and wonderful life. Although I didn't know Mom for the first 25 years of her life, I enjoyed hearing her talk occasionally about her childhood, growing up in Coraopolis Heights and Sewickley outside of Pittsburgh. Mom's father died when she was just 4, so she never really knew him, but she was always very close to her mother. They often took ships over to Germany to visit their German cousins, whom we are still in touch with today because my mother kept up those precious relationships. I think her early ocean crossing travel surely inspired my mother's lifetime of travel and adventure, which all of you know about. In my teens, I loved hearing about Mom's debutante balls, coming out in society, as they called it. It was a whole year of formal parties, and she saved every gorgeous dress she wore, all the white gloves and pearls that my girls still wear. Mom had style and old-school elegance and always good manners. She didn't tell me, though, about any dating or boyfriends, except about meeting my dad. But later in life, she would tell my daughters all about her Princeton and Yale and Harvard boyfriends, which she had when she was at Connecticut College for Women. Whitney and Martha were always surprised to think of their grandmother dating. Scandalous. I think of each of Mom's 4 children, sitting right here, were closer to her at different times of our lives. In 95 years, we each had a long time to know her well, each by ourselves. My earliest favorite memories of Mom and me were really the wonderful West Hartford birthday parties she gave me. These were my earliest memories, and I'm sure it was all about the 1950 cupcakes and ice cream. But she would make and sew my party dress and work hard on that, and think of so many cute games and activities with little girls running around madly in smock dresses. You all remember that kind of thing. Then I was so proud of her when she volunteered to be my Girl Scout leader in the 5th and 6th grade. In my eyes, she was beautiful, smart, exciting, and fun. And I don't know how she did it with 3 children at home. Mom and Dad were very social in West Hartford in the 60s and in Southport in the 70s and 80s. They went to parties every weekend that I can remember, and I always babysat my siblings, and they had parties all the time themselves. Everything was formal in the 60s and then super preppy in the 70s. All the ladies wore Lily Pulitzer, and my daughters, again, wear those today. Retro, it's called. I used to love serving hors d'oeuvres with my friends. A few are sitting out here, and carrying all the mink coats upstairs. We used to lay them all out on the floor and roll on them and lock the door. Anyway, so many good stories. Mom became well known for their annual Southport Christmas party, where she made all the invitations, she made all the hors d'oeuvres herself, and then she sat down and played Christmas carols on the piano while everyone drank gin and tonics and sang all night. At one point, I think the guest numbered 200. So, of course, I started the same tradition when I was married and living in West Hartford. And having learned from the pro, our Christmas parties became famous, and we had up to 200. Mom influenced me with her confident and caring social skills and her love of entertaining and being with friends. Now that legacy lives on through my children, who have become just as outgoing, comfortable, and caring with everyone they meet. I think I felt closest to Mom when I became a mother. Being mothers together was a mutual understanding of the sacrifice, joy, and unconditional love that babies bring. We were at once equals and empathizers. She knew and enjoyed how to help me with everything. I was so lucky that she lived long enough to enjoy and know well my 3 children into adulthood, and she was able to meet her 5 great-grandchildren. We'll always remember those relationships. My mother and I also shared the difficulties of early widowhood. She learned how to be strong and independent from her mother, also an early widow, and I learned how to be self-sufficient and carry on with enthusiasm for life and the living and my growing family, knowing that every day and year is a precious gift of time, not to be wasted for a minute. Certainly, Mom was a life enthusiast with her love of friends and travel and hobbies and family, and I am forever grateful for her gifts to me of this joy and love of life. I will miss my mother dearly, dear friend for 70 years, and as the matriarch and inspiration for our 4-generation family. I miss her as a devoted and caring grandmother and great-grandmother to my adoring children and the future generations of our clan. Her spirit will be kept alive, of course, with hundreds of stories in her 95 years that we can keep telling to our growing family tree going forward. And in the legacy she has left of making every day special and every day happy. Thank you all. My brother Miles will speak next.
I didn't want to be here today. I was packing yesterday or 2 days ago, and I just broke down in tears. This is one gathering I didn't ever want to see happen, but it is, and I'm glad we're here, because this is how we get through it together. So much has been said about her already, beautiful things. What I want to add to it is she loved with a sturdy love. It was dependable. I always knew that I could lean on her, I could count on her. She had my back all through my life. And there were times when I distanced myself from her and the family, and that didn't matter to her. I'm going to talk about a story about that in a minute. I just want to name that, her incredible caring that's already been mentioned here, that, imagine being her son. I feel like the luckiest person in the world to be showered with that love and that caring. When I would speak to her and she would listen to me, as already been mentioned, I felt like I was the most important person in the world. She knew everything about me, and she never lost interest in my life. Her world was vast because of that, right? She always was open to making new friends. I thought about this. A stranger to her was just someone who isn't yet a friend. She had no hesitation making new friends, and she was never afraid of people, and she passed that on to me and to all of us, I think. She took joy in other people's joy. She was able to be happy just because other people were happy, other people that she cared about, especially her family and kids, but all of us. That's a rare thing. It's a beautiful thing. So what we have today is the ways that she touched us, the ways that she moved us, the ways that her life changed our life. And I want to tell you a brief story about one such a time in my life. The two things I took from her the most, I loved about her and admired about her the most, was her love of adventure and her spirit of generosity. And this story, she displayed both of those. So there was a time, I was 19, I got very disillusioned. I needed to know the meaning of life. I couldn't go on with my life until I figured it out. Didn't know what to do, so I went to India for a 6-month term abroad, and she supported me. And while I was there, I found what I was looking for in a Buddhist monastery in Sri Lanka. And when I came home, I was a completely different person. I didn't want anything to do with my past, and I didn't want anything to do with my family. I was cutting ties, I was leaving town. I wanted to start my life on my terms, and I wasn't always very kind about how I left. And I know that it upset her a lot. About 9 months later, she came to visit me. I was in Washington State. She took a train, I think, across the country, and she found me living in a teepee in a meadow surrounded by a forest. And she came into my teepee, and she looked around, and she said, "Where can I sleep?" And so I made a bed for her. It was probably an old sleeping bag on the ground. And that evening, I cooked us dinner over an open fire in the middle of my teepee, and she slept there that night in my teepee. I'll never forget that. And she was telling me, in her way, she was telling me, it doesn't matter how you live. It doesn't matter what lifestyle you choose. What's important to you is important to me. I will always love you. I will always be your mother. You will always be part of this family. And that meant everything to me. So what we take away now is the ways that she's touched us and moved us. And we can all think of stories like that, ways that her life affected ours. And what an incredible being that we had to share this time with. That she was here with us during this time is an amazing thing. A couple more brief stories. When I would go to visit her at Sturgis Ridge, that's where she lived for the last 7 years, I think. And many of her friends are here from Sturgis, and I'm so glad you're here. Every time I went to visit her there, she would introduce me to a new friend that she'd made. And more than one person came up to us in recent times and said, my mom, Mary Martha, was the first person that greeted them when they got there. So she carried that on. All the things you've heard about her here, she stayed doing that right to the very end. She was barely eating at the end, and that was troubling to see, and we would try to get her to eat. We would put out a plate of food and little nibbly things that had a lot of protein in it, and she would always make us eat first before she ate. And she just never quit being a loving mom. She never, it was her mission in life, and she did it so beautifully. So I feel very, very lucky and blessed to have had her as a mom, and I think we're all blessed to have known her as a woman. And what a sad thing. Her passing has left a huge hole in my life that no amount of tears has been able to fill. These last 2 months have been hard. Feel lost without her. And this is good to gather, to support each other in our grief, and to find footing again. So I'm really glad I'm here, despite the fact I really didn't want to be here. One last story. Toward the end, she would mutter to herself. It was a little disturbing to hear that, but she would just be in her room kind of mumbling. And one time I was in the next room and she was saying, "Help, help, help me." Of course, I jumped up and I ran into her room and I said, "What is it, Mom? What do you need?" And she looked around and she said, "I'm okay." And then I said, who are you talking to? Who are you asking for help from? And she thought about it. She said, "God." We talked about dying, her and I, quite a bit toward the end. And she said, I'm not afraid to die. I just don't want to leave you all. That was how she felt about us. So, Mom, I just want to say thank you. And I believe you're here with us now. I know this was a place you loved. I know these were people that you loved. And we're here to honor you. And whatever adventure you're on now, Godspeed.
Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me. Good afternoon. My name is Charlie, Mary Martha's son. I wanted to share some things about my mother and her extremely positive impact on my life and my children's lives. I feel very thankful and blessed to have had her as my mother. She was a wonderful role model, and one of my life's goals is to be more like my mother. I was offered jobs in California, but I felt it was more important to live near her. I wanted her influence and advice for me and my children. She had an unconditional love for all of her children and acted as my confidant and coach and always had good advice for me. I truly feel that she was friends with everyone. And I often have people come up to me and say how much they loved her. She was always a joy to be around. She would always greet everyone with a smile and immediately would sincerely ask how they were doing and what they were up to. She dedicated her life to others, children, grandchildren, even great-grandchildren, along with volunteering at the church and in the community. She was always curious about my life and my children, and also knew all of my good friends over the years. She instilled me with the love of music. One of her great joys was coming to church and hearing the choir and the bells. One of my fondest memories growing up was driving to vacation in New Hampshire. I was stuffed in the back of our station wagon, and she would be in the front seat playing her ukulele and singing with us silly songs like The Cannibal King. And the memory goes on and on. People that know me know that I love to see live music and love the local ukulele shows. She also instilled in me and my children the love of travel and adventure. My children and I, over the years, have been on many educational and adventurous trips all over the world with her, with great memories. She created a family tradition of getting the whole family together in a rustic cabin in New Hampshire every year, and we continue to do so. And it brought back great life memories. I really feel that she had a wonderful, full life full of good friends and loving family. I will truly miss her. To wrap up, recently, when her health was ailing, I asked her what she wanted. And she looked at me and said, "Love and kindness." And that's what I remember.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Martha's grandson, one of her grandsons, Wig Civitillo. It's very difficult to sum up a life as vibrant and full as my grandmother Mary Martha's, but there's one thing I can say with certainty, and it's that she lived with intention, warmth, and a deep curiosity about the world and the people in it. Some of my favorite memories with Grandma started in Cancun, Mexico. She had a timeshare there, and it became more than just a vacation spot. It was a place where laughter came easy, where meals stretched long into the evening, and where the ocean seemed to reflect her love of adventure. She shared that place with us, not just as a getaway, but as a way to build memories together. She had that gift of turning places into traditions, just like she did with Squam Lake, which you just heard about from Uncle Charlie. My Uncle Charlie. She introduced us to Rocky Wall Deep Haven, and over time it became a sacred place in our family, a place to slow down, to be together, and to remember what really matters. That was something she understood deeply, the importance of time spent with family, of long conversations, of shared meals, and of friendships that span generations. She brought that same presence into the everyday. She loved her check-in calls, really loved them. Even when we didn't have much news, she'd ask thoughtful questions. She would remember the smallest details and make you feel like what was happening in your life really mattered. She was endlessly supportive of us, not in a flashy or performative way, but in a quiet and consistent way that really sticks with you. She was also curious, genuinely interested in whatever we were working on. I remember her trying to wrap her head around blockchain technology. And while she may never have quite nailed it, she was excited about the idea of new things and understanding the world as it changed, even if it made her sometimes say, and I quote, "Where's the world heading?" and then answer herself with, "Not in a good direction, we need to go back." Of course, she also had her constants, her love of golden retrievers, and even though Winnie was part golden retriever, part doodle, she was royalty in her mind. Her fondness of museums, and of course, on occasion, her love of gin. Another quote, "That's my gin," from our holiday vacations, she'd say, with a sparkle that made you laugh even before you knew the joke. But what maybe what stands out the most is that she lived a life that was hers. She followed her passions to travel, to learn, to build friendships that spanned decades and continents. She went everywhere, all 7 continents. She kissed the Pope's ring. She won a dress on The Price is Right. Pretty impressive. And she somehow ended up giving political advice to Mike Bloomberg at a cocktail party. And she always came home to her family, to her friends, to the people she cared about. She was proud of us, all, quote unquote, brilliant and illustrious and super duper, in her words. And she never needed anything more than that. She said once, "I'm not unhappy. I don't wish I had more than I have." Her life wasn't about possessions, it was about people and stories. And making sure the people around her felt heard, supported, and loved. So if there's a lesson I'll carry forward, it's this. And this is another grandma quote. Every day has its good moments. She believed that, she lived that, and in remembering her, I think we honor her most by doing the same. We love you, Grandma. Thank you for letting us be a part of your story.
Hi, everyone. I'm Whitney, the eldest of Mary Martha's grandchildren. I love my grandmother and would like to add a few memories I've had with my grandma. 2 hobbies I love are knitting and needlepoint. I give full credit to my grandmother for teaching me these skills. We would love to do our many projects together. While Grandma worked on baby blankets, I would also work on different projects and learn new stitches from her. I would do this while discussing life and memories of her childhood. This is such a fun and happy hobby to share with my grandma. As many of you know, my grandma loved to travel. and our whole family has what we like to call the travel gene. Yes, I have it too. One of the best family trips we took together was for her 80th birthday. We took a cruise to the Bahamas, and my mom packed 2 enormous suitcases filled with my grandmother's debutante dresses, and all the ladies wore those to a fancy dinner to celebrate her. The gentlemen even wore tails and top hats. Her jaw dropped at the sight, and she was able to tell a little story about each dress, which was amazing to hear. Her dresses and style were impeccable. I liked her style so much that I wore her dress that she walked down the aisle in. My mom wore it too, making it a 3-generational dress, which was so special and made me feel an everlasting connection to my grandma. Another fun travel trip was when I was 10 years old. Grandma and I took a trip, just the 2 of us, to California to visit my Aunt Amy, who lived there. The 3 of us thought it would be fun to fool my mom and buy fake hoop earrings and wear them. We also found fake long nails and painted them purple. And so when I came home, Mom saw me and was shocked that my grandma would encourage me to do these 2 wild things. My grandma and I had an amazing relationship together that was unique and special, and I will never forget it. I am so lucky that I had her in so much of my life, and I'm so happy my children had the opportunity to spend time with her and have snuggles with her too. Thank you all for coming and sharing the memories with us.
Good afternoon. For those who don't know me, I'm Mary Martha's granddaughter, Kathy's middle child, Martha. My grandma was a force of nature, an extremely loyal woman, and a gracious host. She lit up a room with her dazzling smile, her kind eyes. She was one of the best listeners I know and taught us all to do more listening and learning. She put family first and was someone I looked up to and could always count on for a listening ear. I am incredibly honored to share her namesake and work hard to uphold our Martha name. Apparently, we're the doers. I also followed her legacy of Martha's naming Catherine's and Catherine's naming Martha's, naming my 5-month-old daughter, Catherine Sherts, in her honor, which is now a 5-generation tradition. I felt so lucky to have had 36 wonderful years of memories with her and wanted to share a few highlights with you all. While many of my memories with her were in Southport and Fairfield, we also had many memories on family vacations. At her Cancun timeshare, I'll never forget the time I threw away a very important set of jokers in her deck of cards she brought, which was apparently very important for a game of rummy, and she had to fish them out of the trash can. When my siblings and I attended a 50-cent concert years later, she curiously commented, "It only cost 50 cents?" And of course, when we were walking by a shop in the local mall and she insisted I run into the store and share the dreaded news with the store clerk that they had ripped jeans in their storefront window, the horror. What I will always cherish are the drives we had up to our beloved family getaway, Rocky Well Deep Haven. When I moved back to Connecticut after living in New York for a few years, Grandma and I created a tradition of me picking her up, driving straight to LL Bean in New Hampshire for a shopping pit stop before setting our sights on Bacon Road in Holderness, New Hampshire. We once got matching LL Bean raincoats that I wear with pride and think of her. I'll always remember that joyful smile she got when Dark and Stormies were delivered to her on the RDC dock as we all got comfortable in our dock chairs to watch the sunset over Squam Lake. On those drives, I was able to have deep chats with her about her childhood, growing up in Pennsylvania, her debutante years where she attended something like 48 parties in one season, before heading off to Conn College for Women and meeting Bill Sherts and settling down to raise a family. Although I worked hard to learn about her life, the conversation somehow always circled back to my life, as you can probably all attest. She had a fantastic knack for taking a sincere interest in those around her, which in turn made her the most interesting person in the room. I will always treasure my time with her on that 5-hour car ride, as well as the few months I lived with her in Southport after college while commuting to the city before my apartment lease started with my roommate. how she woke up at the break of dawn to make me breakfast and see me off before my very early train and hear all about my upcoming day as an intern at Estee Lauder. You would have thought I was the CEO for the sincere excitement she showed to learn about what I had going on each day at the office. I also spent many weekends with her in my mid-20s when I was living in Connecticut, going through her old family photos together and helping her organize and categorize them, as I was able to hear wonderful stories about her memories and incredible travel adventures. The pictures jogged her memory. When I came across a picture of a tow-headed child with a duck, which turned out was her pet duck, or photos of polar bears and riding on elephants from her adventures around the world. What a full life she had that I was able to experience through those photos. I will also never forget the many Thanksgivings, Christmases, and 4th of Julys in Southport and Fairfield, sitting around the Fairfield Beach Club having her favorite lobster, or sitting at her kitchen table enjoying her homemade grilled cheese and tomato soup that seemed to warm both your tummy and your heart. It was always such a treat when she would surreptitiously sneak her grandchildren into the kitchen to give us candy from her secret candy drawer, which my mom might be learning about for the first time at this very moment. And of course, our annual croquet tournaments with a special plaque, a coveted trophy, and obstacles like Winnie the Dog or the Salt Meadow, which swallowed more croquet balls than our family cares to admit to. She instilled wonderful traditions that will always make me think of her, like our annual Thanksgiving Grace we sang. And so, in your honor, Grandma, I'd like everyone to join me in singing her cherished song in memory of a very special woman I felt so lucky to have had in my life for so many years. The words are in your program, and the tune is to Edelweiss.
Wow, that was all beautiful. One of the best and worst parts of a celebration of life is hearing all those wonderful stories that you then want to go, what, Mary Martha, you did what? You won a dress on The Price is Right? What? How did we not know this? These kind of things. So we have heard so many lovely words and rightful tributes to Mary Martha. But I want to share one more. It's a lovely story of intergenerational love and friendship. And I think it's just another perfect example of your mom and grandmother. So about 4 years ago, I'm going to say, Amy called me and asked if I thought I had a high school youth who might be interested in a Saturday job. I don't know why this is, because the girl who this story is about is sitting right over there. So gave it just a little wave. There you go. So Amy asked if I had a youth group kid who might just go in on Saturdays to spend some time with Mary Martha to break up the monotony of a weekend. And so that next youth group Sunday night, I explained the phone call, and Ellie raised her hand right away. And she's like, yeah, I think I'd like to do that, because that's who Ellie is. And so the next day, there she was at Sturgis Bridge, and a 4-year friendship was born. And so I asked Ellie if she wanted to write some words about her time with Mary Martha and what it meant to her. So she wrote these beautiful words that I want to share with you. And there's also always something about God that is mysterious. And when Ellie raised her hand and said that she would do this, none of us had any idea of the deep connection that you're going to hear about that she, Ellie, and the Sherts family shared together. So these are the words from Ellie. Losing someone who is like a grandma to me leaves a profound ache in my heart, and it's hard to put into words the weight of that loss. Mary Martha was more than just a friend or a mentor. She was a guiding light in my life. Her warmth, kindness, and wisdom shaped me in ways I will never fully be able to express. I'll always remember the moments we shared, whether it was listening to her stories, helping her write in her calendar the next time she would see me, laughing at me while I struggled with her wheelchair, the way she would listen to me, a very common theme, helping her decorate her apartment for every holiday, organizing her never-ending collection of scarves, and the times that I would just show up for a surprise visit. In all of our conversations, one day I shared that my family and I spent some time every summer at my very favorite place in all the world, a family camp. I just cherished those weeks. Mary Martha asked where, and Ellie said, Rocky Wool Deep Haven camps. So wouldn't you know that that's the same camp the Sherts family spent family camp at in the summers when they were all young. Ellie and Mary Martha spent hours talking about that camp and shared pictures back and forth. And Ellie concluded her thoughts with me saying, she had this beautiful way of making the world feel safe. I know, it's beautiful, Ellie. Thanks for making me do this. She had this beautiful way of making the world feel safe, and that's something I'll carry with me forever. And that was Mary Martha, an open heart, an open spirit that welcomed everyone, listened to everyone, came to know everyone, and always found a way to connect. So in that spirit, let's take a moment and offer our prayers of gratitude and thanksgiving for this beautiful life of Mary Martha. Dear God, from you, no secrets are hidden, no thoughts go unknown, and no life goes unnoticed. We've gathered here today in that spirit to honor and remember the life of Mary Martha. You have been with us, God, in this time as we have laughed and cried and told stories and held sacred silence as we've remembered her with love. She was so many things to so many people. She was a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and a beloved friend. Time has passed since she left this earth, and yet the ache of her absence is still real. Grief visits us in waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes strong, but always reminding us of the depth of our love for her. And we do take comfort, God, in knowing that she is reunited with her beloved husband, Bill, a man she deeply loved in this life and now loves in eternity. We also are thrilled that she's reunited with her parents and her brother and all those whom she loved who went before her. And so our prayers today turn to those of us who are still here walking this earth, a world that feels both familiar and different, like a home where one treasured room is now quiet, still full of beauty and meaning, but forever changed. So remind us, God, that just as you walked beside us in life, Mary Martha continues to be with us, in front of us, guiding our steps, beside us, encouraging our spirits, behind us, urging us onward, and within us, calling us to live lives of compassion and kindness, laughter and delight, faith and integrity, and most of all, of love. So we take this moment, God, to lift our gratitude up for her children whom she loves so much, for Kathy and Miles and Charlie and Amy, for her grandchildren, Whitney and Martha and Wiggs, Sarah and William, and for her beautiful great-grandchildren, Hunter and Anne, Elizabeth, Kate, and Scotty. And for the many friends that are gathered here, for all of her caregivers that she loved and who loved her in return. Each of us hold memories, both spoken and unspoken, that will continue to shape our days. So be near all of us, God, as we continue to heal. Surround us all with your comfort and with the ever-present love of Mary Martha. And even as we grieve, we give thanks for a life well lived, for a love that endures, and for the promise that we carry in our faith. For we believe, as Mary Martha did, in the resurrection of your Son, Jesus Christ, and in the knowledge that we all will be reunited in your eternal glory. All this we offer in the name of Jesus. Amen. And so now, as we get ready to leave this place, let's join together in the responsive benediction found in your bulletins. These are actually the last words that Jesus gave to his disciples when he knew that he was no longer going to be with them and wanted to leave with them some meaningful words. So let's read from these beautiful words. Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you. Not as the world gives do I give unto you. Peace I leave with you.